Hail the Barbarian Horde! I'm Joe, here with Mies McCall Stan.
Hello and greetings.
And today we're continuing our Kull podcast, or Riddle of Steel podcast, in which we analyze the live-action works of Robert E. Howard. So anyways, last time we left off, we were dealing with Kull's flirtation with Zaretta and the whole tiger motif and whatnot. This time, we're going to discuss one of the first decisions Kull decides to make. Because Zaretta did not want to submit to him as a slave, basically demanding her freedom. And Kull himself has a distaste for slavery due to his own bad experiences of having been one. Well, he was on a galley. He was a galley slave for 12 years, he says. So this kind of traumatized him. And he bears the marks of those years on his back. So, naturally, he's rather keen to not tolerate this practice. But the thing is, when he goes to give the order, things go a little awry. He is told that this is part of the traditional laws of Valusia, and being of a personality not to let such a thing get in his way, he decides why not change the law. And his first instinct is to do just that. So he advances into the main hall where the stone tablets are, and pretty much tells everyone, yeah, laws changed. I'm freeing people. And the first few slaves he tries to free, he runs into a bit of a hiccup. They tell him, well, at least one of them tells him, my home's here. I've never known any other home. Which is tragic because some of these people, this is the only life they know. What are they going to do?
It's not something you can just outlaw, they're free. There requires a bit of a transition period.
Yeah.
Because it's going to really hurt the nation's economy. The people will be confused. How to convince the slave owners, okay, let's shift gears.
This will take time. And it'll take a statesman to oversee it. Kull's story arc, or character arc, in this movie is to go from impulsive hothead to statesman. By the end, he's a statesman who can handle it. And that's his destiny, to transition Valusia to a new age. He's not the last of the old, he's the first of the new. And one guy he offered freedom to basically went, Yahoo! I'm going back home! He just ditches. He's like, screw this. I was born out in the fields. I don't even like this place. Screw this. Which, I thought that was funny. That guy's situation is pretty clear-cut. Just let him go home already.
He's homesick. He just wants to go home.
And he's a slave. He doesn't have rights.
And now it's like, first opportunity. Yeah, I could leave this. I'm a country boy, not a city boy.
Yeah, he's smart. He's not stupid. I'm joking. Going to resist that joke. But yeah, he's got every reason to want to leave. And slavery by itself, by its nature, is a wicked practice. To trade and date a human being like that is wrong, fundamentally. Now, today, we have a form of slavery. Actually, not just a form of it. It's called debt trapping. It's slavery. It's cruel. It's horrible. That's what usury was built to do.
And we all know usury is a sin.
Mm-hmm. But the thing is, we know most slavery happens in third world countries. And they use more than just debt trapping to do it. And the thing is, what Kull is looking at is an economy that's very backwards. Valusia's in something of a economic crunch. And these things do happen historically. Like, it's not just a single cause, I think. like there are times when it is a single cause or a single group that caused it. Like your nation's invaded by the English in 100 Years' War. That's gonna throw the economy up for a lurch. That sort of stuff. Like when you're invaded, or I don't know, this shakes up the economy. Valusia has been in steady decline for a while, and the people are discouraged, and to an extent, from what it looks like, discriminated against by their own ruling class. So there's a lot of parallels to today. But the trouble is, no leader is willing to actually tackle the problem. Kull is something of a Gilgameshian character. And by that I mean that Gilgamesh found his city in decline, and towards the end of his life in the myths, vows to put it back on track, and he succeeds. So Kull is basically like that. He's like Gilgamesh, an unconquerable warrior who sits the throne. And so he's in a bit of a pickle where he's more accustomed to an energetic lifestyle, but now he has to sit down and occupy the throne. He's not yet fully accustomed to it, and he's not yet fully familiar with the problem of freeing all the slaves and of transitioning to a different kind of, I guess you could say, economy and cultural life. Because now I ended up reading, or I should say listening to the audiobook of Oswald Spengler's The Decline of the West. And Spengler had some interesting theories, and one of his particularities is that he regards civilization as something that is dead and crystallized. It's over. Culture is the still living form of it. And this is a very good distinction to make. Naturally, there was someone on my Substack when I wrote about it who said, you seem confused by the differentiation between age, empire, nation, culture, and civilization. Really, no, but he was just twisting things around, as a lot of Anons online are wont to do. But see, sometimes these things are undistinguishable from each other, but at other times they are. And in Valusia's case, this is a vast empire, and it comprises a multitude of kingdoms and whatnot within itself, and a multitude of people within itself. And the thing is, it is in steady decline, and it has begun the process of becoming a civilization rather than a culture. Now, Spengler did not believe this was possible. It was possible to reverse this trend. But others like Vico and even Evola and other philosophers theorized that you could. But it takes a lot of will from the people. And this is something that sometimes is a success, sometimes is a failure. Rome is an example of the people trying to turn things around and failing. But from Rome, we got the 1,000 years of medieval history and medieval culture, or I should say medieval civilization, because it crystallized and fell arguably around 1648, thereabouts, or 1683. Take your pick for which one you prefer as a date. But Valusia still has a chance to turn it around. The problem is, the royalty's idea of turning things around is vastly different from what the peasants imagine. Kull is someone who's lived as a slave, a bandit, a mercenary, a gladiator. Like, this guy has probably seen almost every level of the society, and now he's the king. So he's got a good idea of the problems that are confronting Valusia. His idea of banning slavery might seem in the movie as just him being horny and making a bad decision. But to an extent, it's also him reflecting on his own life and wanting to correct it in a way. But he's also looking at the problem from the angle of a free man will work harder than a slave. Because at some point when you're importing slaves, you'll eventually they'll outnumber the native stock of the nation. And that's not good. So what you have here is a very, very complex problem that Valusia is facing. So the filmmakers were actually being pretty smart about this. Kull is looking at this not just from a short-term perspective, but looking at it as, well, slavery is not just simply wrong, but it's a practice that could backfire down the road. And it's already starting to backfire. So let's free the slaves, get them on good terms with us, and generally, But you also have to bear in mind, a lot of these slaves are also of the native people of Valusia. And are they going to feel all that enthusiastic for Valusia whilst they're in chains?
Not as much.
Yeah, see, that's the problem. You got to make certain distinctions and analysis of this from a neutral third-person perspective almost. And it is one of the intriguing issues of this movie that it confronts slavery from a multitude of perspectives, I would argue. And because you have the palace slave who actually doesn't mind his life in the palace. You have the palace slave who hates his life in the palace. You have Zaretta who doesn't like slavery but realizes she doesn't have it so bad in the harem. She doesn't. But you then have the one mother who lost her child who's a slave. She's a slave. And she has it pretty bad in the palace. So, I fall on the side that it's overall really bad. But the movie is, this one and the one Hercules Legendary Journeys one with the Lost City make some very solid arguments that there are particular... There's nuance to the issue. Because remember, there's a palace slave in the Lost City movie whom... Most of the palace slaves are treated very well by Umfala, who thinks of them as family. Now, she's a very unusual leader who loves her household and loves the palace staff, who arguably, given she's in mourning, I'd say they're the ones keeping her from jumping off the palace walls. And they're the ones, caring for her like one's parents would. So, this is where, in the 90s, while I'm of the side, no to slavery... It's something I kind of understand why Daenerys in the one movie was arguing so fervently against it. But on the other hand, the 90s brought in an interesting perspective on these matters. Like I said, I fundamentally disagree, but I find it a fascinating perspective and set of arguments that they're putting forward. What about the noble slaves in the palace, the kitchen slaves? What if they enjoy their work? They have food, they've got a roof over their heads, they've got kids probably. So yeah, okay. I think give them their own house to live in so they could go home to it and have space away from the nobility, and let them have a wage. But this is a very weird kind of argument these movies make. Naturally, when Kull goes to smash the stone tablet, the thing is, because he's informed, no one can do this, Tu intervenes and interposes himself between Kull and the stone tablet, telling him, these are the laws of Valusia. No king is above the law. We've never had an emperor who was above the law. The law keeps everything in check. You want to just smash it? I don't know about you, but I don't really like that idea. Because we're treading uncharted waters at that point.
We've got a new king. One that was essentially raised a feral child. He doesn't know how to run a
things
kingdom. Yet, we can't just smash all the laws.
But on the other hand, Kull's argument is it's holding us back. We need to forge a new set of laws. We need new laws. We need to rethink some of the old practices. We need reforms. And Kull's, I would argue, a Caesarian figure in a lot of ways. He's there to streamline the bureaucracy. He's there to smooth out the crumpled paper. But he's hamstrung by these very random, archaic laws that are holding the Empire back. The Empire has also been losing ground and faltering before its enemies and its neighbors. If it continues down this track, it's all good and well for Tu to say, now hold on, the laws have kept things in check and kept some of the weirdos from doing some really evil stuff. Yeah, but it's guaranteeing the empire in decline. It's causing the empire to falter when what it needs is strength to push back the enemy. What it needs is an Augustan Caesar type figure, not another bureaucrat or another madman.
We need to go over the laws, see what works, keep that, see what doesn't, ditch that, see if there are some things that can change.
But the problem is, 2 wants to keep it in its entirety. Because he fears if you can just change this detail or that detail, what's to stop a tyrant later from doing something similar? But here's the thing, Dan. That's an illusion. I mean, Borna should never have been permitted to kill his own kids. And yet, what is he doing? He's doing just that. Borna is arguably comporting himself exactly like the Nightmare Tyrant. So, this clinging to the stone tablets, what does it actually accomplish? Nothing. It doesn't matter. It's a false argument. It's a false equivalency. It's essentially akin to, there's an argument by some on the new right who say, we can't go as far as the left because, who's to say they won't do the same to us later? They've been doing the same to you the entire time for 100 years. What the heck do you think you're doing? And that's the thing. Kull's argument is the same as Cersei Lannister from Game of Thrones. When you play this game of kings and politics, you got to play to win, or what's going to happen to you? You die. So Kull's coming at this from a perspective of, I really don't want to go down. No, I don't want to go down after just a day or two and be the forgiving weakling. But 2 tells him, no, I'm pushing back on this one. No. And Kull's not yet in a position to tell 2, go eat a sandwich. Go pound some dirt. He can't. Actually, he'd probably be dead before the dawn. He's not stupid. He knows he doesn't stand a chance right now. Right now is the time for consolidation and power building. He was flexing his muscles in a way, in terms of political authority and legal authority. Found his limits, pulled back, and in my view, this slave issue, it's not over yet. The conversation of what Kull can and cannot do as a king, it's not over yet. He's going to keep flexing his muscles. This was just the first clash. Now, 2's on board with him, but Kull's found there's a line in the sand right now that he's not willing to cross. But, down the road, 2 will probably be willing to stand aside. And you have all the other nobles and whatnot. They would not support Kull right now. Because, Dan, it's only been a few days that he's on the throne. So...
And this is a new dynasty. There are other members of the old family that still live.
And need to be cleared away.
So, 2 actually kept things together.
Yeah, but it's good for Kull to flex his muscles. And this is them testing the relationship against each other. And finding that they're willing to compromise with each other for now. But I think 2 underestimates Kull. 2 probably thinks this issue is a bed. It's over. Does Kull think that way? No, of course not. So, woo be to 2 for thinking this issue's a bed. It's gone. It's done. It's finished. It's over. No. Nothing is over. Kull will have those stone tablets destroyed. And so I kind of view the ending as almost a given. So, anyways, tell us what you think. I know we went all over the place with this analysis. I wanted to try something a little different. And I hope you all also are liking our audio drama, which you can click on the screen to browse Kryn. The little logo thing should appear on the screen now. And do click over there and subscribe to that channel as well as this one, if you haven't already, because, we could use your support. And our audio drama is kind of about the passing of a crown between multiple claimants of an old royal family. So if you enjoy this movie and this podcast, you'll definitely enjoy that. I guarantee it. So until next time, smash that like and that subscribe button as though you were Kull, who has just destroyed his enemies.